What drives a man to kill a family in cold blood? In the small town of Holcomb, Kansas, the year 1959 marked a grim chapter. The Clutter family, well respected and integrated into their community, were found brutally murdered in their home. This heinous act is meticulously explored in Truman Capote's In Cold Blood, a book that delves deep into the crime, the culprits, and the chilling aftermath. This dark tale begins on a quiet farm, where a family's peace was shattered forever. The Clutter family, unaware of the horror that awaited them, spent their last evening in Holcomb, Kansas, much like any other. In the quiet farmhouse, Herb Clutter, a well-respected farmer, was winding down after a long day's work. His wife, Bonnie, battling bouts of depression, sought comfort in the familiarity of her home. Meanwhile, Nancy, a bright and well-liked high school student, and Kenyon, her introverted younger brother, were absorbed in their typical evening routines. Outside this scene of domestic tranquility, a sinister plot was unfolding. Perry Smith and Richard "Dick" Hickock, two ex-convicts, approached the house under the cover of darkness, driven by the belief that a safe filled with cash awaited them inside. When their search revealed no such fortune, panic set in. Determined to leave no witnesses to their failed robbery, the pair made a grim decision that would shatter the peace of the Clutter household forever. With no money found, frustration turned to violence, leaving a community in mourning. With few clues, the Kansas Bureau of Investigation faces a daunting task. The agents Alvin Dewey, Harold Nye, Roy Church, and Clarence Dunce are confronted with an almost insurmountable challenge. The brutal murder of the Clutter family has left a scant trail, and every lead seems to vanish into thin air. The investigation trudges on, with the team painstakingly piecing together the puzzle. It's a race against time, and the pressure is immense. As the days turn into weeks, the case seems to grow colder and colder. But then a lifeline emerges from an unexpected corner. Floyd Wells, a former cellmate of Dick's, steps forward. He reveals a chilling tale of a planned robbery gone horribly wrong. He recounts Dick's grandiose dreams of a safe full of cash, dreams which led to a night of unspeakable horror. A tip from the past leads to a turning point in the grim investigation. This breakthrough provides a glimmer of hope in the grim, shadowy world of the investigation. The road to justice begins with a confession. In the shimmering lights of Las Vegas, far from the quiet plains of Kansas, the law finally caught up with Perry Smith and Richard "Dick" Hickock. The arrest was as sudden as it was dramatic, with the two men taken into custody, unaware that their past actions had set a relentless pursuit in motion. Under the stark, unyielding lights of the interrogation room, the facade began to crumble. Perry, whose life had been a complex tapestry of misfortunes and mishaps, found himself cornered by the consequences of his own actions. It was during these intense interrogations that Perry began to speak, his voice revealing more than just the details of the crime. He spoke of fear, of desperation, and of a plan gone horrifically awry. As Perry recounted the events, the psychological dance between him and Dick unfolded, a dance of dominance and submission, of influence and control. With each word, the chilling nature of their crime was laid bare. With Perry's words, the full horror of that night comes to light. In the courtroom, the fate of two men hangs in the balance. The trial proceedings unfold with an intensity that grips the entire town. Defense attorneys scramble to present their case, their faces etched with the weight of their task. They argue, they plead, but the evidence is overwhelming, the confession damning. The prosecution paints a chilling picture of the crime, a narrative of cold-blooded murder that sends shivers down the spines of the jury. Each piece of evidence, each testimony, adds to the mounting horror of what transpired on that fateful November night. As the trial progresses, the emotional toll on everyone involved becomes apparent. Faces in the courtroom bear witness to the pain, the shock, the disbelief. The community watches, their hearts heavy with sorrow and their minds filled with questions. How could this have happened here, in their quiet town? The verdict comes, guilty. The courtroom echoes with the word. A collective breath is held and then released. The sentencing follows, death. 2 lives to be extinguished, an eye for an eye, a life for a life. The defense attorneys' faces reflect their defeat, their failure to save their clients from the ultimate punishment. As the gavel fell, 2 lives were condemned to end as the community sought closure. The trial was over, but the echoes of the crime would linger, leaving a lasting scar on the heart of the town. Awaiting death, two killers reflect on their fates. Death row is a place where time slows down, each second stretching endlessly as the condemned await their final moments. Perry Smith and Richard Dick Hickock spent years in this limbo, their lives reduced to the cold confines of their cells and the haunting reality of their impending executions. Throughout their time on death row, Perry and Dick filed numerous appeals, each a desperate bid to extend their lives. Perry, often philosophical, delved into deep reflections about his life and the nature of humanity. In stark contrast, Dick maintained a facade of bravado, never fully acknowledging the gravity of their crimes. As the years passed, the psychological burden grew heavier. The isolation and the unrelenting proximity to death carved into their minds, shaping their final days into a grim tableau of regret and despair. Their end came by hanging, a stark and final punctuation to their tragic tale. In the shadow of death, the lines between justice and retribution blur, a book that changed the face of literature and true crime. In Cold Blood by Truman Capote isn't just a book, it's a monumental force in the realm of journalism and literature. Capote's blend of precise journalistic detail with the narrative depth of a novel set a new benchmark, giving rise to the true crime genre as we know it today. His pioneering method, often referred to as the non-fiction novel, has inspired countless writers to explore complex stories with a similar lens. The impact of this book extends beyond just its style. It sparked a significant ethical debate about the role of authors in true crime storytelling. How close should a writer get to their subjects? What responsibilities do they hold towards real lives transformed into characters? These questions continue to challenge and shape the genre. Additionally, Capote's vivid character exploration and the psychological depth he brings to the real-life figures humanize a brutal crime, forcing readers to confront uncomfortable truths about justice, morality, and human nature. Truman Capote's In Cold Blood remains a haunting exploration of the depths of human nature, challenging our perceptions of guilt and innocence.